Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of the Daily GSPN West Ham Podcast. I'm joined by Jacob. Say hello.
Hello. How's it going?
It is good. What a win. Obviously everyone will have seen by now that we beat Leicester in our most recent fixture 2-0. Brilliant performance, really good for morale. I think the fact that we've got 2 wins on the bounce is incredible, to be honest. It's something we've seen very little of. So what are your kind of initial thoughts about the game?
Yeah, I think it wasn't obviously we're delighted that we got the win. It wasn't the most, cutthroat and amazing performance we've ever put on, but we got the job done. We did dominate for large parts of the game, and it probably could have been more than 2-0 really. But then again, they had a couple of chances that they couldn't take, but overall, we're very happy with it.
Yeah, me too. I think talking about the actual performance, it wasn't the best performance, but you can only beat the team that you're up against. And we coped really well with actually having the ball. I think that's something that when you're used to being on the back foot in games, which we basically have been 90% of games this season, it's really impressive how we felt comfortable in possession. There wasn't really too many opportunities where players looked like they were stressed and they didn't want the ball and they were trying to offload it quickly. I think we held possession really nicely. I think particularly our defence, we looked really comfortable in possession. And when we do play the 5 at the back system like we did in this game, 5 at the back, 3 at the back, whatever you want to call it, our centre-backs always look really comfortable. And obviously, in particular, Aaron Creswell, who was our best player on the pitch, he'd been amazing, to be honest. I think it's been a little bit of a revival for him under Potter when you look at the way he's been playing and how, as he's started to get a bit older, he's 35 now, so very much in the twilight of his career. As he started to get older, you've seen him get less and less game time, which you do kind of understand for a player of his age, but Potter's come in and just completely revitalised him. He's so comfortable with the ball and his decision making is so good, and you see him in the game constantly communicating with the players around him what he wants and where he wants them to be. So that sort of leadership is something that's vital, I think, especially when we've had such a poor season. So really happy with him. And the fact that Oli Scars is playing so much, I think Aaron Creswell being next to him is going to benefit his development immensely. Having someone with so much Premier League experience next to you, kind of communicating where you should be and what you should do, is only going to massively improve his development. So, really, really happy with him.
Yeah, with Creswell, he just didn't look like a player who had barely been in the team for the majority of the season. He kind of looked like his old self, like we'd seen at the start of his time with us. So really happy with his performance. I'm sure that's going to keep him in the starting 11 after that.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because of his age, it's really difficult to kind of look into the future when you think about what we do with that position, because the 3 or 5 at the back seems to be a formation that Potter likes quite a lot. And this season, it's obvious that Creswell is going to play a massive part. But then at the end of this year, it's like, do we look to replace him with someone else, or do we keep it the same? I don't know. I guess that's more of a question for the summer, because if he keeps playing at this level, then I don't see any reason why we replace him. I also want to touch on the other wide centre-back, Todibo. How do you feel he played in this game?
Yeah, I thought he was very good. He looked very comfortable with the ball. It does worry you sometimes when he kind of lingers with it for a little bit long sometimes, but I don't think he made any mistakes. And I think that sort of 3/5 back suits him. The way he plays, there's a lot of movement at the back. He looked very assured. And I think having the likes of Creswell in there probably helped to sort of keep it balanced. I thought he was excellent. I think they were all very good. I think, like you said, Creswell was probably the standout player But they all had a good game. So I think we've got to give them all credit, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. And the fact that Creswell can play in the centre back does so much for our squad depth. We have probably 3 centre backs in the squad, so when we're using it 3 at the back, it feels relatively risky. We're using, if we are playing like out and out centre backs, we're only playing the centre backs that we have available, and we have no one in reserve. So the fact that Creswell can deputise in there is so reassuring. I know that Kufal has kind of played in that wide right centre back role, which he does okay. I think he's kind of serviceable there, but not anything we should be looking at kind of long term. It's more of a makeshift situation for me. But yeah, just really happy with it. Really happy with the defence generally. I like the freedom that the fullbacks are given when we have possession. I think it was another brilliant game from Wan-Bissaka, who seems to just have a knack for finding himself in space and making really good kind of overlapping runs. How do you think his performances have improved under Potter, or is it something that he's just been brilliant this season generally?
I think it's a lot to do with Potter's style. I don't know if it's his actual style, but the five back with the ability to get forwards, and he's brilliant at that. And I think having an English manager, and I'm sure there's loads of other attributes that help Potter in getting the best out of Wan-Bissaka. And some of what we've seen already is it makes you wonder why Man United ever let him go, especially for so cheap. He's certainly somebody that you feel could be in that position for a long time to come. And yeah, we haven't really missed Sofal since he's been here, since Wan-Bissaka's been here, and that's a massive credit to him, because Sofal's been one of our most reliable players for a number of years now, and you couldn't really see anybody taking his place. Maybe Ben Johnson at the time when we had him, but Wan-Bissaka's come in and kind of changed the whole idea of our right back being able to score goals and make a huge impact like he has. So yeah, no, he's been great, and I'm sure he'll only sort of progress more under Potter. I think it might be a bit early to start talking about an England call up, but I think he should be in the conversation at least.
Yeah, I completely agree. When you look at his ability to play left back as well, I don't see any reason to why he shouldn't be considered as kind of a really interesting addition to the squad. If you look at the right back position, it's always been a really competitive position. But you look at the people who have kind of held that position as their own for England. Who is it? Trippier, who has his form has very much dropped off a cliff. I don't think he's anywhere near the player that he was even just a year or two ago. Kyle Walker's gone to Italy. People have said that his performances have been poor. I don't think he's set the world alight in Italy either. So there is definitely room for someone to maybe break into that right back position. And Trent is probably the person you line up as the front runner, or you have Reece James as well, but he gets injured quite a lot. Trent Alexander-Arnold is defensively not great. So if you want someone who can defend but also has the ability to go forward, I don't really think there's anyone better than Aaron Wan-Bissaka, to be honest, because his one-on-one defending is immense. It's unbelievably good. Everyone knows this, and I think especially at international level, you have to have the players that are able to defend. I don't think you can afford to carry people who have not necessarily the highest level of defensive ability. So I would 100% consider Wan-Bissaka in that squad. And I hope that Thomas Tuchel is open to changing things up, because when you spend so long under one manager, he's got the guys that he likes and he's got the guys that he's not as much of a fan of. A new manager coming in is a perfect opportunity to refresh the squad. And I think, as we've done so well at so many tournaments, but just not quite got over the edge, I think now is potentially a good time to have a little bit of a shake-up and let some of the older guys leave the squad and bring in some kind of fresh faces to allow us to maybe reach that next level of actually winning something. So, yeah, I think that's a really good point, and I'd like to think that he's definitely in the conversation. Okay, we're going to go to a first advert, and when we get back, I'd like to discuss our attack because it's one of the places that I don't think we were great.
Your body is unique, and Global Sports Podcast Network has partnered with Bioniq, the world's most personalised supplements. Bioniq provide 100% tailor-made supplements designed to deliver precisely what your body needs at exactly the right levels to optimise your health. No guessing. So click the link in the show notes. Use the code GSPN 2025 for 40% off your first month's subscription. Bioniq. Don't settle for off-the-shelf solutions made for just anybody. Get what's right for you right now.
So, looking at the game as a whole, we've already spoken about defence. The defence was really good. I think the midfield was also very solid. You know, Thomas Suchek getting that goal on his birthday again. He's actually the only player to score twice on his birthday, other than Teddy Sheringham, which is a cool little fact that I read.
Wow. Really
happy with the midfield. I don't think there's too much really to say about the midfield, to be honest. It was a relatively steady performance. Dominated the possession, kind of similar in how we spoke about the defence. Everyone looked comfortable. I'd probably prefer to talk about the attack because it was the worst part of our team in this game. How do you feel the attack was?
Yeah, I just think, I agree. It was not to say that they were bad. But
it wasn't terrible.
Say out of the positions, all the positions, they probably could have done more. And I think, we didn't have a huge amount of chances. We had a lot of the ball, and we at times we didn't do very much with it. So I think that's something that's got to be drilled into the players that we're not going to have that kind of game again, unless we come up against another one of those bottom three sides where you can have the ball for that long and then, not be as clinical with it, because you do that against, one of the top teams. You do it against your, Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool. You have to take the chances you have and you have to create more. And there's no way in our upcoming games that we're going to have that much of the ball like we did against Leicester. They barely laid a glove on us for the majority of the game. So we definitely could have had more than just 2 goals. That's for certain. Bowen, I know you think that was Bowen's goal.
I just don't know what the reason you don't
again. I think it's all about the angles. I don't think it's obviously it's his attempt, right? But I think I saw a good angle of it where you kind of look down the goal line and you kind of see how much the deflection sort of takes it past the keeper. Had it not been for that, I think it would have kind of gone across the box. But to be honest, we don't care. We, you take the goal in those circumstances. Well, we it was only 1-0 and we had the ball for so long, and we were thinking, where's the next one going to come from? One of these players needs to take a chance. So yeah, we don't really care about the manner it goes in. It went in. Maybe would have liked to see Bowen's sort of stats be bolstered a little bit more, but who cares really?
Yeah, it's it's more just one for Jarrod Bowen for me, because his goal numbers haven't been as high as they have been in previous seasons. He still had a really good season with 7 goals and 4 assists so far. That's a really solid campaign for a team that have been very poor this year. It's just more about kind of the respect that other people are going to give him, because it's just like one extra goal contribution that he can put on his CV to make other people respect him the way that we do. It's a strange one that Evan Ferguson isn't starting yet, to be honest, for me. I would much prefer him starting, and then we can bring him off and change it if it doesn't work. But, but when we're bringing him on so late in games, it's how is he supposed to kind of develop any sort of momentum, or how are we supposed to be able to work out if he's going to be a good player for us long term if he isn't given the opportunity to play from the first minute? And I understand that these things take time, but I think just throw him in. He's either going to sink or swim. He's either going to do really well or he's not going to be good enough for us. So I would much rather see him start. And when you do play Kudus and Bowen as these kind of two, I don't know if you can call them strikers, to be honest, but it's not really the way that they play. I know Bowen can play that way, but Kudus isn't a striker. He likes to come deep. He likes to make runs in behind. And he likes to beat people, but he's not making the runs of a striker. And I think Bowen does that a lot better, but even still, it's not really his game. When we play the five at the back, obviously it is taking someone out of the offensive third, I'd say, and bringing them into defence. And you have the wide players pushing, which kind of gives you width. But I would much rather like to see us have like a nailed on kind of spearhead to our attack. And then we can fit the other people in around to facilitate more effective attacking play, because without someone doing that job, which I think Paqueta did really well before he got injured, he was really good at holding the ball up and bringing other players in and leading the line and pressing from the front. He did all those things really well, obviously kind of lacking the final part of being a striker, which is kind of making the runs and scoring the goals, obviously. I just think we look better when we have a striker on the pitch. So I would much rather see him start the next game. If you had the choice between starting Evan Ferguson up front or playing with Jared Bowen and another one of our attackers a bit further forward, what do you think you'd pick?
I get what you're saying. I just think we need to sort of, that has to be a decision that's made based on who we're playing and how desperate we are to get a win and all these kind of factors. I know how important wins are for us at the moment with the disappointment that the season's been, but I don't think that necessarily means Ferguson has to be in. I think if he's, if we need him, he's there. I know he definitely didn't have enough time in the Leicester game to actually make an impact, which is frustrating to see, because realistically, how long are we actually gonna have him for? So we need to make the most of his attributes while we've got him. So yeah, I think it's one of those ones where you kind of just have to trust that Potter is going to put out his strongest 11, what he feels is his strongest based on how they've trained and how they match up against the opposition. I mean, you can't say what he chose didn't work in the last game, but I see what you mean about making the most of having him rather than, leaving it late to bring him on and then not giving him a proper opportunity to actually make a big impact on the game. Maybe had he been in from the start, we would have been better than 2-0. But I think his opportunities will come, and I think as the season progresses more, further, he'll have to be used more just purely due to the amount of minutes, and he'll choose him, when it suits the team, and if he feels we need that real sort of clinical finisher in the team. He chose well, and I think Ferguson, he'll get his chances, definitely.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I just want to see us score more goals, to be honest, because if you look at our past 5 games, we've only scored 4 goals. So and we scored 2 in this preseason game, but if you're calling that an own goal, then I guess technically we've only scored 1 goal in this game.
1 goal.
Yeah. If we're going to see this kind of prolonged success when it comes to getting points, we need to be scoring more goals. I don't know how many games you can really win in the Premier League only scoring 1 goal each game, because every team has quality and every team has the ability to score basically any time, like even Southampton, they are relatively poor this season. You know, I don't think that's a controversial thing to say, but
No.
they do have players that can, out of nowhere, just pull something completely out of their, you know what, and smash one in the top bins. So we need to be scoring more on that. So I think that's kind of my main argument for getting Evan Ferguson in, because then it allows us to get the best out of Bowen and Kudus, because they're both better in the wide spaces than they are kind of down the middle. So it's an interesting conversation, and it's not the end of the world. I just, if we've got them online, let's play them. Let's see what you can do. Okay, we're going to go to our second advert.
Yeah.
When we get back, I'd like to wrap up our thoughts about this game and look forward to our next fixture against Newcastle. Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we've spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it's super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr. Okay, so wrapping up our thoughts on this game, I quickly want to touch on Oli Scars again, because he's someone that seems to be a regular starter for us now, which I really like. I heard an argument somewhere, I can't remember where it was I heard it, but basically saying that, do we need to slow down when it comes to the discussion and the amount of minutes that he's getting? Because, you see it so many times where a team has a player who's really good and he gets hyped so much and he gets thrown straight into the limelight. If he then does start to drop off, or he makes a mistake, or, we win and he gets beaten like regularly, if obviously because he's a wide player, if he comes up against a player who just beats him time after time, his stock is going to go down so much. And at such a pivotal time in his development, we don't want to have negative discussions about him. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with this or not, but should we kind of leave him alone a little bit?
I think, to be honest, I think that any hype that there is around him, which we know there is, I think it is purely just come from his good performances. I get what you mean. We don't want to increase the pressure. I mean, obviously we're having no effect on him whatsoever, but the general noise, I see what you mean, but I think it's very hard not to shout about a homegrown player who's starting over, the likes of Emerson, who's been in the team for so long, and now isn't getting in because of him. And yeah, it's warranted. So I think, as much as we are going to worry about is this a long-term sort of, is he going to be our left back for many, many years to come? I think we just kind of have to be pleased with what he's shown. And it is worrying to think that he won't reach his hype or his level that we're kind of predicting that he'll reach. But that just comes with it, doesn't it? Like, that's, a lot of players go through that as well. I think I'm not trying to say that he's going to reach the level of Declan Rice, but you saw it with Rice as well. He kind of came out of nowhere, obviously coming through the academy, and sort of just making his way through for whatever reason, whether it's injuries in the first team or just earning it through the youth team. But slowly and gradually making himself, one of the first names on the team sheet. And I think he definitely has the attributes to be that player as well. And surely his confidence can only grow from here as well. He doesn't look like somebody who has made less than 10 starts for us, does he? Like, he looks like he's been playing for several seasons. So yeah, I'm just excited. I don't think we should be too worried.
Yeah, I do agree with that, to be honest. I know there's always a risk, but I don't think it's a risk that there is any... How are you supposed to negate a risk that is just going to happen regardless. He's there, like you said, he's there on merit, and he's been playing well, so people are talking about him, and you can't tell people not to talk about a player who's doing well. So looking at the whole situation, I think we just have to be cautious that we can't put too much pressure, which I think is always something that you need to think about. But, as long as he's playing well, and as long as he's trying and he's developing and he's improving, you can't really ask for much more. And the comparison with Declan Rice, I think, is really interesting because, like you say, it is his rise was very natural and it wasn't forced. He wasn't.
No.
There wasn't a lot of pressure on him initially. He was put into games and he did well and he earned his position and earned more minutes. So the fact that he hasn't been signed for big money, or he hasn't, got this massive hype around him from social media and from like conversations and stuff, because you see it with some of the younger players at the bigger teams. I think an example for me is Louis Barry. When he was younger, he was going all over the place. He was at Barcelona and then he went to Everton, and now he's managed to find form in the lower leagues, because you look at the amount of pressure that was on him and the conversations around him, whether he was kind of the next coming of, pick any good footballer, Lionel Messi, whatever. And I think that is not always a good thing for these young guys. So the fact that he is at West Ham and he has the ability, I think he's in the perfect place. I think West Ham is a really good breeding ground for talent, because we have good players and we have an amazing fan base and we've got amazing facilities, but also we don't necessarily have the kind of scrutiny and the criticising eyes that a lot of the kind of big six, if you can call them that even now, so I'm really happy for him, and I hope that he just continues to develop, to be honest. Okay, so looking forward, Newcastle, how are you feeling about that?
I don't know. I think I feel a lot more confident knowing that Isak probably isn't going to be playing. From what I've heard anyway, I might be wrong. He might be back and he might be fine, but I'm sure I heard them say that he would miss a few games. So that kind of helps us, definitely, because he, in my eyes, has been, behind Mo Salah, like the best player this season. Between him and Salah's obviously numbers speak for themselves, but I think he has been the best striker this season by far. So him probably not being in there definitely helps us, because we've leaked goals all season, and we could really do without him being there. So that's a positive. However, I don't think we can expect to have anywhere near the amount of ball that we did against Leicester. And I think we're going to have to take any chances that we get, because they're far more dangerous, more confidence, and just better quality players. So, we did it against Arsenal, who were also missing key men at the time of playing them. So we can definitely get something. It's just whether we're going to, be up for it and take our chances when they come. I think that's something we need to see. And like you say, with Ferguson, if he plays, I'm sure he will create chances, and I'm sure, we can rely on him, hopefully.
Yeah, I completely agree. Going into this game, we do have to be cautious because they do have such quality in the attacking third, but we've already beaten them once this season, so I don't see any reason to why we can't beat them again. And on top of that, the Arsenal result shows that we can beat good teams. It wasn't a dominant display and we didn't outclass them everywhere, but we did beat them, and it wasn't an undeserved win. We were better than them. They weren't as good as we were. So we can do it. And I'm quietly confident that we will be able to do it again. It's at home. It's at the London Stadium. We haven't been amazing there this season, but under Potter, I hope that we can turn it into a bit more of a fortress. That, the move to the London Stadium was to facilitate the European hopes that we had, and we've had great European nights at the London Stadium. So if we want to make it a place that hosts European football, we need to be better. And I think that starts with our home form. Our home form needs to be good. We need to have a sense that when we play at home, when we play at our stadium, we are good and we don't underperform. So going into this game, hopefully we can continue to win. 3 wins on the bounce with a win against Arsenal and Newcastle is amazing. That is something that, a month or two ago, we would have basically said wasn't possible. I just hope we can do it, to be honest. So we'll have to see. And I'm sure we'll do a pod later in the week to discuss more of our thoughts about the game specifically.
Sweet. So hopefully next time it will be a cheerful one and not a sort of depressing one like the majority of them have been. But we'll wrap it up. So thank you very much for watching this episode of the Daily GSPN West Ham podcast. Say goodbye, Tom.
Goodbye.
Please rate this podcast 5 stars and check out all of our social media that's linked in the description. Also, you can check out all the other GSPN podcasts. You got fantasy football, women's football, wrap-up pods in multiple languages, and all the other Premier League team podcasts as well. Thank you for listening, and we'll speak to you soon.
Every club, every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.